like crazy, as usual, and it's always fun to learn to do all this stuff. And the craziest part about this is Jaime gets set up and gets ready to join this call here on Facebook. I think the craziest part of this entire situation is that um, that I'm doing one thing from Singapore and Jaime is doing another thing from the United States. All right, so it's quite interesting. So here comes Jaime now. Jaime is coming on and joining the call. Let's see if we can do a little faster than we did last week. There we go. So on your end, Jaime, I think you just need to, I think you just need to turn down your audio on your computer.
You think I learned that? There we go.
There we go. Okay. I still hear echo.
Uh-oh.
Let's see. Okay.
Try now.
Yeah, we're good. We're golden now.
Awesome.
All right. We are live on Zoom. We are live on Facebook Live. We are live on
YouTube.
Podcast. Live on YouTube.
This is a great day.
Awesome.
Is this a record? I feel like we're missing something. Are we not somewhere?
I don't know. I feel like, oh, you know what? We need to go into the group. So it's probably a good idea to go into the different groups and get people to come join in. So if you want to share to your groups, I think we just got to share into that one group.
Yeah. Let me find us.
Okay, cool. Good evening, everybody on your side of the world. Jaime, you are in DFW. I think it's always good to tell everybody where we're coming from so they know.
Absolutely.
And go ahead.
Let's see. So as you're coming in, let us know where you're listening from. Hey Joseph, one quick second. Are you on private or are you on public?
Should be on public.
Okay.
But the post is in a private group, so we will have a little bit. You won't be able to. People who are not in the New Real Estate Agents group won't be able to view it.
Got it. Okay. Awesome.
Hi Simca, welcome from Florida. Nice to see you. Thank you for posting the other day, by the way. That was very helpful.
All right. 2 seconds and we're off to the races. All righty. Okay, so I'm in the groups that I shared in the groups where we needed to.
All right. And I'm simply just adding some notes here. And we're good to go, I think.
Lakeland, Florida. We have Paula. Paula, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So that's over on YouTube. I feel like I'm missing some light.
Oh, you look pretty good.
You know, after funding, you'd think we'd be able to afford more equipment, you know, after we went public.
Yeah. We got to be careful. I don't want the SEC hearing that.
That's true. Yeah, we don't want the SEC to know that we went public. There we go. All right. So as you're coming in, let us know where you're listening from today. We are all over the place. We have Joseph in Singapore. What time is it over there?
It is currently 9:21 a.m. And what time is it in your side of the world?
It is 8 something.
8 and some change. 8 and some change.
8 and some change. Well, welcome everybody to the Agent Lead Source podcast. We're really excited to bring this to you because this is a topic that is, I'm going to say that this is going to be the most innovative marketing strategy that you've ever heard. And if we live up to that name, I fully expect you to hit us with that 5-star review on the podcast. So there's some high expectations. Send them early so you can be pleasantly surprised when we achieve them.
Awesome. By the way, Jaime, we have over 20 5-star reviews on the podcast already, which is pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
That's just one location. So thank you, those of you who watch this, those of you who are using the material that we're giving you, and the information that we provide. Thank you so much, and we hope that we continue to provide helpful information, and that means we continue to get 5-star reviews. So thank you all for joining and giving us those reviews.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Joseph, let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about
Sure.
some innovative marketing for realtors. But before we actually get into the innovative part, we need to understand where we're coming from. So what that means is we're going to do just a brief summary to lead up to the innovative part, because again, we need to understand where we're transitioning from into where the future is going to be with marketing specifically for the real estate part. So we're going to break it up into old school, newer school, and then the innovative parts that we want to share with you that are not being implemented by many real estate agents out there, where it's the opportunity that you're listening here at the Agent Lead Source podcast that is being brought to you. So going into the old school and touching on that for a couple of seconds, when we say old school way of marketing or generating business for yourself, is through the cold calling, is through door knocking, is through open houses. It's those types of strategies that are still effective. Don't mishear me, but they are a little bit older, and those can't necessarily be done at scale unless you're deploying some additional firepower, some additional people to do that on your behalf. Is that a fair analysis of the older school?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, whenever they hear marketers talk about marketing, the first thing that most marketers say is, do X, Y, Z without cold calling, without door knocking, without doing these things. And I understand the pitch, but at the same time, you can't, for lack of better terms, and maybe pun intended, you can't knock the things that have worked for years and years, right? Those things are still highly effective, and they need to be utilized by the people who can utilize them in their markets. So I want to make sure that we're very clear. Like, the reason we're talking about innovative marketing and starting from what we call old school to new school is because there's a place for old school, right? So anybody who's knocking that might want to take a step back, because they've probably never done it and never had success doing it, right? Like, it's
just they're trying to pitch you on what they're gonna sell you. That's why those old strategies don't work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I mean, that's the reality of it. So I'm glad that you point that out, because again, these are strategies that are still working. But going back to the original point, they're not necessarily something that are scalable, especially since, I mean, those were introduced before there was social media. Those were introduced before the concept ever came around. So now that you have social media, we kind of get into the newer school of marketing, which is where advertising at scale became accessible to us. In the past, we didn't have $10,000 to spend on a billboard on I-35 and market our business that way. So we now have the ability to put ourselves in front of thousands of people for as little as $5 a day, $10 a day, $20 a day, however much you want to allocate, whether that's on Google, Facebook, or YouTube. So it's the newer strategies that we talk a lot about as well.
Yeah, and as you say that, not only maybe did you not have the $10,000, or if you did have the $10,000, you had to compete for a limited amount of space, right? If it's a billboard on I-35, there are probably only 5 of them in your location. Well, now in 2020, you can put a billboard anywhere you want to put it, right? In a video game that's online, you can put it inside a chat messenger, any app that somebody's using. You can throw your face and your message out there anywhere you want. Where in a billboard, it's just that location. You were stuck to who passed by, who had a car, right? And drove that particular space. So yeah, I think we're heading into a whole different place now, or we are in a whole different place now.
You could advertise on the Agent Lead Source podcast. We'll gladly take your money. I mean, just places, just thinking out loud here. Just places. Those are awesome. Those are newer school. So diving into newer school, if you will, to where we actually get to the title of the innovative marketing for realtors. One incredible opportunity for you right now, whether you realize it or not, you're actually consuming at this present moment. Yeah. And that's the podcast world. Now, before you think, wow, another podcast, or some of you may be thinking, whoa, I never even thought about being a podcaster. I want you to
Yeah.
realize that that's a huge opportunity that's being left on the table, especially in our industry, because we,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason, think that it's not going to work in our particular space. Somehow we believe that in our industry, whatever's working in other worlds, whether it's people that are, let's just say, electricians, plumbers, title companies, everyone else, it just seems that we have that resistance thinking that we're so unique that the marketing strategies or the marketing platforms that are working for other industries don't apply to us.
Mm.
So podcasting is really an opportunity that we wanted to break open, not only because we're actually doing that right now, but we really just wanted to, give you some ideas on how to get started and give you exactly the playbook that we're using in our businesses.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story, Jaime. Whenever we're talking about podcasting slash radio, um, there's a company out there that starts with Pan and ends with something that rhymes with Mora. And so that company, a lot of new construction builders, excuse me, got messenger coming in. A lot of new construction builders will, I, I've heard them paying $50,000 a month to market on these radio stations. If they're doing it, ladies and gentlemen, and you can create a podcast for free and hand it out to your friends talking about new construction, talking about buying your first house, selling your house for the most money, you can then just start handing it out on Facebook or marketing that to people. You know, that there's this whole movement, Hyman, probably most of the early or mid 2010ish now to 2020, where people would go drop off books, right? Imagine condensing that information and then giving it to sellers or giving it to buyers and saying, hey, look, here's the information you really need to know. You don't have to read this 200-page book to find this out. Here's what you need to know to sell your house for the most money. And listen to this. Let me know if you have any questions. Right. So we're talking about innovation. I know we're going into a little bit more of the how now. But I just wanted to say that if somebody's spending $40,000 on a process, that means they're making way more than $40,000. So just keep that in mind, people, as you listen to this, and you can do it for free.
Yes, no, absolutely. So when it comes to the podcast world, I'll just go before we, turn off some listeners to thinking, oh, that's just too out of our reach. I'll just, if it's okay, Joseph, I'll kind of share the back end on how we make this work, so
Yeah.
people can actually, realize how simple it is, and that way it'll become a little bit more tangible. And then we get into you already went into some how, which is fantastic, but then we get into a little bit more of how to curate it, what
Mm,
content to produce. So
yeah.
understand that the podcast space is still wide open. I know that there seems to be quite a few podcast channels out there, or podcast period out there. I'm not even using it as a noun. I don't know why. So to set up your podcast, it's very simple. All you have to do is have audio. That is
Mm,
the audio. You can record an entire podcast on your phone. It's that simple. Or you could just have a little bit more of a setup like we do. It's a video podcast for us. If you're listening on Spotify, on Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast, then of course that's the audio version. But if you're on
yeah.
Facebook, you're watching us record this podcast live. If you're on YouTube, you're watching us record this podcast live. And all we do is rip out the audio as soon as we're through here, and we upload it to our host, which our particular host is Buzzsprout. So BUZZSPROUT .com, and it costs a little less than, I think it's about $15 a month to host our podcast. So once you upload your podcast, you optimize it, put the title, the description, the tags, and the host and the additional artwork that you want to it. Then you distribute it everywhere by making sure that you're connected to the platforms like Spotify, like Amazon, a podcast like Apple Podcast. That's something that you do at the very beginning as soon as you create your Buzzsprout account. And the moment that you upload there going forward, it's going to syndicate everywhere. So real estate agents can really I guess identify with this, because they're used to having their inputs be syndicated everywhere by the MLS. So it's
Yeah.
very much the same concept. Think of the Buzzsprout as your MLS. You've uploaded, and then at that point, you just share your podcast. Maybe I
That's
made it
awesome.
sound too simple.
I don't want to downplay it because there was a lot of work for you on the back end, right? By the way, Jaime did all this. I get to come on here and I get to just spit my knowledge and share that information with you. So Jaime, thank you so much, and Pat, obviously, thank you as well, even though you're not here anymore. But
In
but at the end
spirit
of the
only.
day, in spirit only. But at the end of the day, these things are not as difficult. And I use this analogy all the time because my dad used to use this. My father used to use this. You're not digging ditches. You're literally sitting behind a computer, putting things together. Sometimes you have to rack your brain to make sure things work, right? But other than that, you put your information, you put your name, you put your voice out in front of thousands of people a week, if you do it weekly or a month, right? And you become the authority in that space, especially if you're doing like, new homeowners in Austin, Texas, first time home sellers in Georgetown, Texas, or Dallas Fort Worth home buyers, Dallas Fort Worth home market. Like you become the authority in that space. And I guarantee most of you, if you go look for podcasts that have that right now, you'll probably find this many. And if at max, you'll find this many. And they were from somebody trying to start it and they couldn't figure it out. Right.
Yeah, I think at this point, I know that the numbers seem like quite a bit. If you go and try to get some not realistic numbers, but get some numbers for the podcast, there are some figures out there. The good and the bad of podcast is that there's not readily a centralized source where you have all of these numbers like YouTube. You know how many subscribers somebody has, how many views somebody gets. That's a centralized location. You can actually identify that.
Yeah.
With podcasts, there's really not such a source. There's some self verification. There's some companies out there that will take your information and verify it, but not everybody subscribes to that. So the good and bad to that is, the good is when you're starting, nobody knows that only 5 people downloaded your podcast.
Yeah.
The bad news is you're gonna continue to show up. You need to continue showing up to your audience so you don't become a statistic. I would venture to guess that a majority of those podcasts that you see whenever you type it in on Apple Podcasts to do the exercise that you just shared, Joseph, a lot of those are just abandoned podcasts because they couldn't figure it out, to your
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I agree. But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, if you take the time and you write out like a weekly, let's say you write out 52 different topics to cover, I guarantee you, because a lot of people are scared to get on camera, I guarantee you can talk for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes about a certain topic that you just write. Hey, example, I'm going to talk about new construction today. I can talk for 2 hours about new construction. Or hey, I'm going to talk about the new restaurants that have hit my market. I bet you can talk for 30 minutes about new restaurants and why you like them or why you dislike them. All right. So, we talked about these abandoned podcasts. They are probably abandoned, Jaime, in my opinion, because the person didn't write out the topics that they want to hit over the course of the year. Right. And so they ran out of ideas rather than having them written and like, okay, I'm gonna hit this week. Right.
Yeah, when you're having to scramble for topics right before whenever you're going to do it, then that's just going to get very stressful, very
Yeah.
disorganized. And it's just not going to be a pleasant experience because you're just going to try to show up to the test, but without even having written the questions. I'm not even going to say you have the answers because you have the
Yeah.
answers. You just
Yeah.
don't know the questions to address.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest reason, as you're saying that's the biggest reason for abandonment, because there's just no structure behind it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just show up at the 9th hour and try to wing it. Some of you will be able to do that, but not the majority.
Correct. Awesome. So podcasts, I think we beat that one to death. If you're not doing it, if you have questions about podcasts, and if you want to connect with Jaime, connect with him on Facebook or YouTube, or Jaime, I don't know if you want to give out your email on this particular podcast, but reach out to Jaime. Jaime's done it. He's set up the back end, and he can probably help you out doing that.
Absolutely. Glad to help out in any way. I'll drop it down in the chat below. Just my email. Well, I mean, my email is easy, but it's jaime@jaimeresendez.com. I'm pretty self-centered. So,
Pretty hard to find.
pretty hard to find. So no, you're right about the podcasting. Just one last item on the podcast before we migrate over to the next strategy.
Sure.
With podcast, it can be whatever you want. It can be any topic that you want. You can keep it real estate focused if you absolutely wanted to do that. But you can also have it be a lifestyle thing. You can also have it be a community thing where you highlight other people, and you're going to find the people. Let me equate it this way. If you invite somebody to a phone call or to have a conversation with you, your I guess conversion rate is going to be very, very low. You're not going to get a
Hmm.
lot of people that do that. But if you invite
Yeah.
people onto your podcast, you're going to see that absolutely spike because there's a different level of perceived value for
Yeah.
the podcast. So
Yeah.
your rejections, they automatically go away. And not
Yeah.
only that, the people that you would normally never even try to get on a cold call with or never try to reach out to for whatever reason, whether you felt that they were too successful or they were out of reach or whatever the case may be, the moment that you have a podcast, the tables are turned. And
Completely.
they're the ones that want to get on with you and have a conversation. And if they happen to have $1 million house, a $5 million house, that's just awesome.
Yeah. Well. So Jaime, I think that's to dive a little bit deeper into that. When you talk about perceived value, which was the key term that I took from that, people's perceived value of a podcast is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have a podcast, right? Versus like, hey, I'm a real estate agent. People are like, oh, another real estate agent. Okay, right? So as you look at that, there are so many things you can do in your own market to bring people onto your podcast. Hey, why did you decide to open this store? Hey, why did you decide to open this restaurant? Hey, why did you decide to open this bar? Hey, why did you decide to have this car dealership? Right? So you use the business post that we've given you, like, hey, if you own a small business or you own a business in our city, comment below. We'd like to support you. Right? Then you use that to then go out to people and say, hey, I have a podcast talking about local businesses. It's our real estate podcast, but we talk about local businesses. Would you like to come on? Now you probably have 20 or 30 people that you can bring on once a week or maybe a couple times a week. And now you're talking about local businesses and why they started. And you are the authority figure and they're coming to talk to you. Right.
100%. You're connecting with influencers, and influencers, what do they do? They influence.
That's
So
correct.
people are going to go to them for opinions and everything else. Now, speaking of influencers, because we are influencers, we have a question. So we're living it right
Yeah.
now.
Awesome.
So Paula is asking, is there a recommended length of time for a podcast? Joseph, I would say that really it's not I wouldn't feel comfortable giving a recommendation, but what I could give is in response to this, is there a recommended length of time for a podcast? What I can say is if you're talking about like education based podcasts, that type of topic,
Mm.
I've seen 45 minutes be right around where I expect those podcasts to be, give or take a few minutes. That's what I've seen the most. Now it depends
Yeah.
on the content that you make, but that's the best that I can give to that. Best response I can give to that question. What do you think?
Sure. I think it's a per topic, per person situation, right? Like if it's going really well and the conversation's flowing, people listeners are going to listen to that and they're like, man, this sounds so good. I'm going to go to this restaurant. I'm going to go to this car dealership. Oh, if I keep listening to the end, the car dealership is going to give me 50% off, right? Of my next oil change or my next tire. Well, if they do tire change, that's incredible. But my next oil change, right? So I think it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and how the flow of that conversation is going and what that topic's about, right? You can exhaust a certain topic pretty quickly, but if you have a good person that's on and they're talking and they're charismatic and that conversation just flows, if it goes on for an hour, 2 hours, so be it, right? But I mean, I think most podcasters try to stay between 30 minutes to an hour, if I had to guess. At least what I've seen, right?
I think I mean I'm of the same opinion for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All righty. So let's dive into the next strategy. Unless you have any comments over there or as they come up, Joseph, we can bring those in. That question was from YouTube. By the way, just so everybody knows, I know that we just shared a little bit more inside baseball for you audio listeners. We do this live every Thursday. Now, right now, what we're doing is recording at 8 p.m. Central, and that's going to stay that way for the foreseeable future. And we'll let you know. So if you connect with Joseph or myself, we'll always keep you updated in that regard. So we're going live on YouTube, on Facebook, And then also this is going to become our podcast. So if you want to ask any questions, then be here. We
Yeah.
absolutely invite you. We want to communicate with you. As you see, we're fairly accessible. But as soon as we stop recording here, we don't answer anything.
Gotta go to
Yeah, you
sleep.
certainly, we're done. We're done with it. So only for the podcast. All right. So yeah, the point of that entire rant was come and hang out. We absolutely will answer any question. Ideally, we'd love for it to be the topic, but if not, we'll address it anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So the next innovative strategy that we need to get into, Joseph, and this is one that we're really ramping up to another level with our another project that you and I are working on, which will
Yeah.
unveil very, very soon. So
Yeah.
hint, hint, nudge, nudge. You're going to want to stay tuned. We're going to talk about YouTube marketing.
Mm.
If you want to take your business to that next level, which I guess you are, because
Yeah.
you're listening to this podcast, YouTube is absolutely where it's at. Regardless of the industry, YouTube is where it's at, but especially here in real estate world, in real estate land, because your fellow real estate agents aren't doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always try to drop a little bit of like hidden knowledge, right? Whenever we're having these calls, and I'll just say this: you pay less for YouTube ads than you do for Facebook ads. Just think about that, right, for a second. And you can generate Facebook leads for $1, somewhere around $1, sometimes $2, right, up to 5, higher if you're doing seller leads. YouTube, you can absolutely spend less money and get more leads and possibly a little higher quality leads on YouTube. And we're not even, what the direction we're going is we're talking about organic, but I just want to drop that hint to people. You might want to start learning that and get ahead of the wave before it comes.
100%. 100%. So many of you are already using YouTube as a consumer.
Yeah.
As a consumer, you're using YouTube, whether you need to fix your toilet, whether you want to make the grass green, whether you want to figure out how to replace X, Y, and Z on your vehicle.
How to raise your kids.
How to raise your kids. I'm about to be a dad or a mom. What do I do? Everything. Your YouTube University is real now more than ever. And that space for real estate agents is absolutely there for the taking.
Yes.
It really is. YouTube can be as wide as you want it or as local as you want it. And what that means is when you're making the content and you're thinking, is this worth it? It absolutely is, because when you're talking about a community or you're talking about a neighborhood in the area that you live, regardless of where it is, you're not going to have competition. You may have competition from a macro level, as an example, how to buy a house, period. But you're not going to have competition when you're talking about how to buy a house in Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah. Correct. So Jaime, I think the point that you just made really, as I thought about that, we kind of talked about this on the YouTube podcast, but you can imagine finding anybody who's watching this later on, tomorrow, next week, probably write this idea down. Go out and look for how to buy a house on YouTube. Find the most popular video. Take that video, script it out. Don't do exactly what they did, but do similar to what they did, but do it for your market. And then post that to Facebook. Run it as a Facebook ad and tell me you don't get a buyer or a seller from that. How to sell your house for more money, period. Search that on YouTube and then narrow it down to how to sell your house for more money in whatever city. And I guarantee you're going to get a seller, and I guarantee you'll get a buyer if you do that strategy. But you have to implement it. And if it's popular for some other market or the general whole, it's going to be popular in your market. That's just the way things work. I don't think people grasp that enough. And I just want to make sure I made that point, Jaime.
Yeah, no. And so thank you for making that point, which kind of brings me to another point about YouTube. Right before we got on, you mentioned you mentioned that there was a YouTuber that or a video that you mentioned that you watched.
Yeah, I came across it this week.
Yeah, that came across and you watched it, and it was about how much of a house you could buy for $50,000 or something to that effect.
Correct. Yeah, if you had income of $50,000, how much house you could afford. Yeah.
And this is how small the world is, especially in the YouTube space, where the YouTuber that you were talking about, I had actually just interviewed this very
Awesome.
day at 10. Well, it was scheduled to be at 10 a.m., but then I got delayed. So I'm giving you way too much information at this point, but we moved it back to 10:30.
Uh,
So his interview is going to be released next Tuesday. So check that out. Jaime send this, and you're going to find me there. But where I'm going with that is it is really that small of a network. It's really that small of a community, if you will, especially in this space. And just the reason that we even brought that up was that video that was made by this individual. I mean, I don't mind sharing his name. I don't think he'd mind. Kyle Seagraves has absolutely blown up. He's a mortgage guy, and
mm-hmm.
he's a mortgage officer out of Dayton, Ohio, and he's doing phenomenal work. He's grown his channel to about 25,000 subscribers in 16 months or 18 months or so.
Yeah.
And he started just like you, figuring it out. I started just figuring out. You and I are working on something else that we're going to quickly figure out, and we have, and we're going to launch. And again, we'll share that with the audience soon. But what I'm driving at is if you take any one of those videos that you make and you have one person reach out to out of the 1,000 that watch it, out of the 5,000 that watch it, that in and of itself is going to be worth it, because guess what? When they call you, there will never be an easier lead to convert than a YouTube lead that calls you, including um, talking to your brother, sister, or cousin
Yeah. Your
to use
sphere.
you as a realtor. There just
Yeah.
will not be.
Yeah. Well, so I'm looking at this video. It was posted 2 weeks ago. I'll give you the exact title actually as I look at it. By the way, congratulations, Kyle, on this success that you're having. That's fantastic. And we're going to tell people what to do to emulate what you're doing. So, do you make 50K per year? Question mark. Here's how much house you can afford. Now, it's real simple, ladies and gentlemen. You just do the same thing that Kyle's done for your own market, right? He's doing it obviously to grow his business and what he's doing. But do you make 50,000 in X market? How much house can you afford in X market? And then you tag the video for X market. That's all you have to do. And as Jaime said, thousands of people are going to watch it over time, and probably over the next 5 to 10 years, because the information is going to be there and people are going to want to know, right? There are going to continuously be people buying a house that make $50,000 a year, that are school teachers, that are coaches, that are, work as managers at restaurants or grocery stores. They're going to see that and they're going to reach out to you for years and years to come. It's not that difficult, ladies and gentlemen. Create the content and just watch the money. I don't want to say watch the money come in. Watch people contact you. All right.
100%, 100%. So with YouTube, really the thing that I can say to that, and I want to get your opinion on this, Joseph. The reservation that we're going to get, the pushback that we're going to get is, I don't know what to say. What you just articulated, what you need to say verbatim. So I'm not even going to ask you that.
Yeah.
But for the folks that say, I can't get on camera, what would you say to them? What's something that outside of, well, just do it. What do you think would be something that is just at the edge of, I want to do this, but what would you say to those people?
Yeah, I'll say this. Do you know anybody that makes $50 million a year? Or $10 million a year, $5 million a year? I do, right? So, and that's not boasting. The point is, the majority of this person's videos are all just keynote or PowerPoint slides, and it's the same information like Kyle's covering here, and they're just clicking through the slides. The information's already done, and they're just clicking through and then just doing a voiceover. So you can do something that simple to get started and get comfortable at least hearing your voice, because that's also one of the things that people don't like hearing is their own voice. And then you just create your slides and then record over them. And then you can do in the beginning of the video, you just introduce yourself. Hey, my name is Joseph Gonzalez. I work for Pure Realty out of Austin, Texas. I created this video because I felt like there were a lot of people who didn't know how much house they could buy if they had made $50,000 a year. Enjoy the video. At the end, I'll come back in and give you some more helpful information. So now you've just done 15 seconds of an introduction, let them know who you are. And then at the end, you go back, you go through the video slide by slide. At the end of it, you come back in and say, by the way, if you need to contact me, If you need to talk to myself about buying a house, or one of my loan officers, or I am a loan officer, or whatever the case, my contact information is below. By the way, my number is XYZ, and my phone number or my email is this. I look forward to helping you. I'm just here to help you facilitate a real estate transaction. That's it. So you don't want to be on the video the whole time? You don't have to, right? People make millions of dollars not ever showing their face, right?
There's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways to do it. And right now, believe it or not, you're still among the first to the race. You're
Yeah.
still among the first. So you don't have to be best. You don't have to
No.
be the absolute greatest videographer, but you do have to be there.
Yeah.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, my channel's been growing okay. It's not, I'm certainly not pleased where I'm at right now, or I guess, let me rephrase that. I'm not satisfied with where I'm at right now. And it's just showing up. Just showing up as often as you commit to it. For me, it's a personal daily video. So I show up. Some videos absolutely crush it. Some videos absolutely don't. It's just part of it. But if you show up, it's gonna pay off. The one thing that I want to share here, Joseph, is one thing that kept me going in that hamster wheel, really just being very discouraged, because one, I wasn't getting views, two, I wasn't getting subscribers.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to share with folks is, when you're doing these videos in particular, have a purpose behind them, but also have an offer. Have a reason for somebody to reach out to you, saying that, hey, use me for your next real estate need. My mobile is 940, blah, blah, blah. That is not going to cut it, because
it's not enough.
you are counting on them waiting on pins and needles, waiting for you to give you their phone number, waiting for you to give them their phone number. You're expecting that, but that's not the reality. The reality is they're doing their research. They're learning what the home buying process is. They're learning about X, Y, and Z, and maybe they'll reach out to you in the future if they think about you. But when you make an offer, to go down to the bottom of the description or down to the comment section to download a cheat sheet, to download a guide, to download a process, to download something, just have access to something that you're giving them, i.e. make an offer. That's when you start seeing leads. That's when you start seeing people stop doing what they're doing, which is watching your video, and go down and give you their contact information. And that's how you start growing your database, your business overall.
People on the internet are dumb, right? And I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. But people on the internet, you have to think of people on the internet as dumb. You have to tell them what to do. All right, go down to the description. My information is there. All right.
Now would be a wrong time to tell you to go down and smash that like button. But, I'm sorry. Did this. Now would be a wrong time to tell you to make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share, hit that notification bell. Now would be a terrible time to invite you to go to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review. So I'm not going to even bring that up.
Don't bring it up.
Great. And I feel like
but if you did,
set me up.
But if you did,
you'd be coming.
But if you did, you'd be very, very smart. I'll just say that.
100%. I don't like how you set me up, because you knew that was our break. You knew that I was gonna go into the pitch, and you set that one up.
That's
alrighty. So podcast. Before we leave this topic, Joseph, I'm sorry, not podcast. We already left that We already left that topic.
YouTube, yeah.
Before we leave the YouTube topic, approach the content the same way as you did with podcast. If you want to speak about real estate, there's room in this space all day long. Joseph just gave you a great way to rip off and duplicate, or pay homage, or this essentially model, certainly not copy.
Correct.
But Joseph gave you a great strategy to do that when it comes to content. You can stay in the real estate space all day long. I think that is still a huge void in here. But if you wanted to expand it into an earlier point, lifestyle, if you wanted
Yeah.
to expand it into a community, if you wanted to become the reporter of the community, whatever the case may be, you can certainly do that. But we fall back to the initial point, or one of the initial points was have an offer, direct people what you want them to do, because you certainly don't want to just make videos, and get frustrated where only 10% of the people that would have reached out to you had they known to reach out to you actually did. So that's
Yeah.
just make sure that you're making the content with the purpose, and you're gonna be surprised at the results.
Correct. Yeah. Enjoy making the content. Right. Find something that you enjoy. You can still do things like how I'm a mom in real estate, how I'm a dad in real estate. Right. Like those type of things resonate with people because they, even though they may not be in real estate, they may be a single mom that's a nurse. They may be a single mom that's a firefighter, or a single dad that's a firefighter. Like any of these things, right? Like these things resonate with people. So just find your clique, what you do every day, and relate it to real estate, and that's how you get business. But you can talk about other things as well that you're passionate about.
100%. 100%. Speaking of passionate about, let's talk about the next strategy.
Okay.
So, man, I was really trying to to weave it in, but it just failed. So, when it comes to innovative marketing for real estate agents, the next one that we wanted to cover was Google My Business.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not giving you a directive. I know that sounds like I'm giving you Google My Business. That is actually the program. That's actually the program that Google has. That's something that you do. So you
Yeah.
can type in Google My Business just as I say it, and you're going to find that either you've never claimed your business that you have somewhere, believe it or not, you have a business already out there that Google is placeholding for you,
Hmm.
or you're also going to find, or instead of that, if you haven't claimed your business, you're going to find that you claimed your business at some point in time, weeks, months, years back, but have never done anything with it.
Yeah.
Google My Business is one of the most powerful ways for you to grow your SEO, be found whenever somebody looks for real estate agent near me, real
Yeah.
estate agent in Oak Cliff, real estate agent in Fort Worth. If you have not claimed your Google Your Business, if you get nothing else from this podcast, which you certainly will, if you get nothing else from this podcast, go Google Your Business right now.
Yeah.
It's a low hanging fruit.
And he doesn't mean like go Google just Google your name. He means go there, claim it, and start filling out the information that needs to be there, right? Because once you do that, oh, if people are going to Google to search for real estate agent, and you haven't claimed your business, and it pops up as um, if it pops up as a just blank page with no information, they're going to reach out to you, or they're going to reach out to the person who has all the information filled out, right? So make sure you fill out the information properly, because as Jaime said, it's an empty space.
It's an empty space. It's unfilled. So one of the agents that I work with, he's out of Florida, and that's one of the strategies that we did. Now, anytime that somebody types in Tampa, not yeah, I see Tampa, but no, Wesley Chapel Realtor, he shows up.
Hmm.
Wesley Chapel real estate agent, and he's not just showing up. Period. He's showing up first.
Yeah.
So imagine how much that's going to cost him had he done that with Google Ads, and he's going to still continue having to pay for that. But given the fact that we went through the Google My Business strategy, same thing with another agent in San Antonio, we applied the same strategy there. And just from that simple strategy, they are ranking organically. They are showing up. They don't have to pay Google Ads a dime. You certainly can if you want, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You're showing up. You have just think of it like another social media platform where you fill out your bio. It's no different. You just have to go over and claim it because, again, it's there hanging there for you. You need to claim it. And just as a heads up on how that works, and forgive me if the process changes because it seems to change every other week.
All the time. Yeah.
You're going to be either asked to provide a landline. They have moved away from that, so that's no longer an option. Or they're going to mail you
Yes.
physically a code. I believe it's like 6 or 8 characters long. They're going to mail
That's
you
correct.
something in the mail. It's going to take 8 to 10 business days. Once you get that, you come back in here and verify your business with the code that's given to you. And again, they just change modes of verifying your information, but the but the action is still the same. You need to claim your business, verify your business, and then you're able to upload images. You're able to update hours of operation. You're able to input all of the information like you would for your social media accounts.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a, you know, as you think about, so I used to work in the SEO space. By the way, I'm getting messages like crazy. I used to work in the SEO space, and one of the things that we learned was the more you connect your other social media, the more power that it gives to your Google My Business, right? Because those locations carry so much weight compared to anything else that you're doing. By the way, as we're talking about this, Jaime, I started thinking of a trick for Google My Business, because I'm always thinking of, let's call it gray
Yeah.
hat, because there's white hat, which is like the cleanest of clean how to do things and takes forever to do things. There's black hats, like it's fast, you can get business, and then there's kind of like gray hat, like kind of like on the edge. Here's a gray hat method for those of you who plan on doing this. You do your Google My Business, and then you start writing articles about top real estate agents in your market. Top real estate agents in your market, you're 1 through 10. Like, right. Like, so whenever somebody goes and searches top real estate agents in DFW, Jaime shows up. You create a video about it. Hey, I'm so glad that I am considered one of the top real estate agents. Who considers me that? I do. Right. So like you start creating content and you kind of make it funny, humorous, but it allows you to outrank everybody else. Right. So whenever somebody searches top real estate agents, your funny video is going to come up. Right. And so that's just ways to beat people out to get business before they get the business. Right.
That's perfect. That is gray hack. That is gray hack. I'll give you another gray hack, Joseph, because I think that this is comical. You can align yourself with a digital marketing agency and have them write a blog post about you, how you're the top influencer in a certain space, and then just say that you're a top influencer in a certain space. So
You can do anything. You can be
you can
anything
do
you want.
whatever the hell you want. You can
As
just
your
like
parents, as your parents said, you can be anything you want.
100%. You just have to pay for it or have somebody else write that about you. So there's some people that are probably gonna catch on to that and what I'm referencing and who I'm
Oh
referencing.
man,
But
that's hilarious.
but it's funny. It's funny. So yeah, I'm not above throwing shade. All right, so
Feeling shady in here.
back to the point. When it comes to Google My Business, as we were talking about our what we're gonna bring up in our podcast, I haven't seen somebody really diligently apply this. Let me rephrase that. I haven't seen really many people do that. You and I
Yeah,
both agreed that it was very low hanging fruit. That is still absolutely free. It's I don't know if it was because of that Google Plus failing that Google's trying to find its social media identity
yeah,
where it really is trying to now that it has like a community page, it's really trying to define where it fits in the space. So
yeah,
they want to keep you on Google instead of pointing you to where they want you. I
yeah,
don't know if it has to do with that, but that's why they're just prioritizing that so much more because it keeps people on the Google site rather than linking them out to their rival Facebook or any other
yeah,
search engine.
yeah.
I don't know why.
I think I kind of have an idea why. Well, first, it's all attention is the new money, right? And anybody who doesn't believe that, go look up the richest companies in the world, right? That's Google, that's Apple, that's Facebook, right? Billions and billions of dollars. So attention, right, which then leads to data, but it's because Facebook has started creating their own search for information, right? You can search for anything on Facebook now. So Google's going, okay, we've got to start playing in the social space because they're able to hold people's attention and then get them the information that they want. So Google's going, let's reverse that and say, hey, you're coming here to find things. By the way, here's a little social element. So I think that's why they're kind of moving into that space and trying to, like as you said, Google Plus failed miserably. So I think they're just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's again, I not necessarily know not that we need to figure it out forever. Not forever. Not that we need to figure it out. Period. I think that you have a really good insight on why that is the case that you just shared. But the opportunity's still there.
Oh
It hasn't
yes.
gone away. You all you have to, and this one again, if you get nothing else from this podcast, which you absolutely will, if you get nothing else from this podcast, go, I challenge you on this, Google my business. And in the rare instance that it's not there, all you have to do is create a profile, verify it. The one tip that I can give you there is you do need to have a place that is not a P.O. box number to
Yeah.
mail it to. And even going a little bit further, I know that a lot of us have the kind of like the USPS or the UPS, those central like mailboxes in a strip center.
Yeah.
Those are there, depends on where you go, but they're no longer accepting those as physical addresses. You used to be able
Correct.
to mask that by having 123 Main Street, Suite 520, and it was just a mailbox that UPS sold you. They
Yeah.
have gotten a little bit wiser to that. So you
Yes,
do
they
want to
have.
have a physical address. Even if it is your home, they will let your home go on certain instances.
Yeah. Yeah. I when I worked in the SEO space, we would actually pay people. I'm not gonna say this out loud. I don't want Google to follow me. Anyway, yeah, they don't allow you to do the PO boxes and suites. We'll just say that. Business is fun. Business is
Oh
fun.
my gosh.
Oh,
So
so
go ahead.
one more quick note in regard to this Google thing. Also, make sure you go claim Yelp and create a Yelp profile. I'm hearing more and more agents are being found through Yelp. It's free. They're going to call you 1,000 times to try to get you to advertise. You don't have to do that. But go on there, create your Yelp information, send the link to your friends that are people, past clients, and ask them if they'll do a Yelp review, and then ask them to pick a restaurant on Yelp, and you'll send them a gift card for the restaurant they pick on Yelp. I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to get people to review you and increase your edge rank on Yelp.
Yelp still has a lot of street cred.
Yeah,
Regardless of what you think of the company, it still has a lot of street cred.
yeah.
So same thing that
Regardless
you
of the
would
fake
do.
reviews.
What's that?
So regardless of the fake reviews.
Regardless of the fake reviews, it still has a lot of street cred. So
Yeah.
another exercise that we wanted to cover, you were leading into that, Joseph, was leverage your reviews. People are
Mhm.
willing to do reviews now more than ever because they understand the value of them. So leverage your reviews on Facebook, leverage your reviews on Google, leverage your reviews on Yelp, to Joseph's point, and leverage your reviews everywhere that you possibly can. But the ones that I just mentioned, those are gonna be your top three.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a podcast, your top one is going over to the Agent Lead Source podcast on Apple, dropping us a 5-star. If we don't have, if we didn't do enough here for you to deserve a 5-star, then don't review us, because that's not cool. But outside of that, if you don't have a podcast and want your business to increase in the social status, so from the social standpoint, people are out there looking, they're actively looking, whether you have the difference between 3 reviews and 6 reviews is a mile.
Yeah.
Is a mile.
Yeah.
You're not going to win that competition 90% of the time. So
Yeah.
you certainly want to leverage your reviews. You can use them on every Yelp, Facebook, Google. It could be the same person.
Yeah.
Now, will they like you or will they not? I mean, enough to do that? That's another question. So certainly
Yeah.
leverage those reviews. Don't forget about your Zillows, your Trulias, your those profiles as well. But when we're talking about the out here, not real estate related, you certainly want to do those.
Yeah, here's another thing, Jaime. We talk about reviews and getting reviews, and it's like one of the hardest things for people to ask for, right? That for some reason, hey, I just did a fantastic job helping this person buy or sell a house, but do I ask them for a review? I mean, they just made me $10,000, so I don't know. It's kind of this weird thing. So what you do, you can go to what is this called? The little code in the box. What's that called? I don't even
Oh
know.
yeah, it's not Review Finder. It's
What's
something
the
something.
standard code like that people use to scan stuff now, right?
Oh, the
The
QR code.
QR code. Thank you. Like it went away and it came back, and now it's here again. Anyway,
Yeah, now that they integrated it to the camera, it really
it
has
makes
made
it
a
easier.
difference.
So what I was going to say is you can go to these websites and go to QR code maker, and then make the QR code. You send out a note that says, "Hey, thanks for buying a house with me. I just want to send my appreciation." Put a gift card in it. By the way, will you also drop me a review? All you have to do is put your phone up to this QR code, and it'll send you to the website. Right? Nobody does that. I promise you, nobody does that. Right? And then they see the gift card. They're like, "Man, this person just keeps on giving. They love me." And so then they go scan the QR code. It goes to the website where the reviews can be left, and they leave you a review, right? Cost you $10. Send them a $10 gift card to Starbucks or $25 gift card to whatever restaurant. Chick-fil-A, by the way, Chick-fil-A. If you want to sponsor, I am here for that. Whenever I get back to the United States, I will go eat there every week. I promise you. But yeah, super simple way to get reviews without feeling like you are overstepping boundaries, right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. And going beyond that, because you know me, you're about making more money. I'm about saving more money. So we've got that contrast. But my immediate save money, the penny pincher in me
Yeah,
thinks, well, I don't want to cut into my margins. Don't think about it that way. It's well, for one,
yeah,
it's $10, right? But
yeah,
beyond that, even if it was $100, think about the investment that does in your business. Think about the other deals that you're going to never know that one review got for you. You're never
yeah,
going to know those. But also think about the referrals. We
yeah,
we perk up when we hear referrals. So
yeah,
think about the referrals that brings you. And
yeah,
if they end up going with somebody else at the end of the day, when the house that you help them get into, they sell it later on. Okay, that's going to happen. I mean, it's your
yeah,
job to follow up, but sometimes extenuating circumstances don't allow that. Their friends became a realtor and they want to help them out, whatever the case may be.
yeah,
But you don't know how far that strategy that Joseph mentioned is going to impact you, even beyond just the direct sell. There's just no
yeah,
way to measure that. So
yeah.
always keep that in mind. It's an investment.
Yeah, and it's a small investment. I mean, you think about it. You made 7,000, 10,000, $20,000 off of this buyer or seller, and all you're doing is sending them 10, $25 gift card and asking for a review. Like that's like crumbs compared to what you just made. So you should, as Jaime said, obviously savings, right? But you should look at that as an investment to increase your money makes money, right? Scared money doesn't make money. So
100%, 100%. Joseph, as we're getting ready for the dismount, I want to bring up something. I guess if we had to summarize what we've been talking about being known. I
yeah,
and I forget who said this. I really want to give them credit, but if I forget enough, I could probably claim it for myself. It's it's not who you know at this point, it's who knows you.
yeah,
Now,
yes,
again, I can't for the life of me remember where I heard that first. I know I heard it from somebody because I that's too wise for me to have thought of it, but
yeah,
it's not necessarily who you know at this point, it's who knows you. And what we
yeah,
gave you right now is very unique ways for people to know you, that is beyond that. Back to early point that Joseph made, it's not when they see your phone on I'm sorry, when they see your name on the caller ID, they don't think, oh, it's just another realtor.
yeah,
They think differently.
yeah,
So
yeah.
those are my parting thoughts.
Yeah, this is not your grandma or grandpa saying anymore, right? In 2020, this is not. It's better to know people, right? Especially in this business, it's better for people to know you, right? Because just because you know somebody doesn't mean you're going to be able to monetize that. But when people get to know you, you get to monetize that, right? It's a different world in 2020. The more people who know you, the more opportunities you have to make more money. And again, I want to be very careful in saying what I'm saying and letting people know I'm not saying that knowing people does not increase your chances of increasing your business. I'm saying in 2020, it's about the more people who know you, specifically in your market, specifically in what you're trying to accomplish. That'll give you more opportunities to make more money.
Bam. Awesome. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. This one, this is one of my favorite ones, Joseph. This really was one of my favorite ones. We covered something that you're not hearing everywhere else.
Yeah,
And I know. I think that's something a lot of people needed to hear. That I'm looking at the comment section right now. Um, so dropping dimes.
Yeah,
There were
saw
some
that.
other comments over here. Where was it? That good idea on the Google, great
Yeah.
idea on the podcast. So there's a lot of it's resonating. So it's very rewarding to see that. So as a reminder, we are everywhere where you listen to your podcast. So please listen in, download us, subscribe, make sure that you stay subscribed. And also, if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, then we do ask that you 5-star review us. If not, we don't want it. Throw it back. Don't do that. But if
Get
you
it out
listen
of here.
to, if you're here on Facebook, if you're here on YouTube, thank you again for being live. Again, if you want to be part of the conversation, we do this on Thursdays, and we bring you as much value as we possibly can without asking for a dime. So a like goes a long way.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys. As Jaime said, we appreciate you, and we'll catch you next week on Thursday.
Later.
Bye.